We're starting to see it, so we'll be working on his nomination along with a lot of others.
We are going to delve into your nominations, but since you bring him up, do you still have confidence in Pete Hegseth?
Yes, I do. I really do. He's a very smart guy. I've known him through Fox, but I've known him for a long time.
Pete Hegseth, genuine. This is not a joke. He actually said he pledges he would stop drinking if he was made head of the Department of Defense, which is the most alcoholic thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Yeah, I'll stop drinking. Just make me if you made me the biggest general in the world, I would stop. That's crazy.
And he's basically a military guy. I mean, every time I talk to him, all he wants to talk about is the military. He's a military guy. I used to kid him about it. I didn't think it would be in this position where he may be, hopefully will be Secretary of Defense. But every time I was with him, he was fighting for soldiers, where he said some soldier was unjustly put in prison because they were really doing what they were taught to do in some cases.
This is in reference to Hegseth advocating for the dropping of charges and release of, and in Trump's case, pardoning of war criminals, such as a Navy SEAL who his squad mates suspected of slaughtering civilians, children, so they disabled his gun so that he wouldn't be able to anymore.
So, yeah, I think he's going to do fine.
The fact that there are these allegations against him, misconduct, sexual misconduct, heavy drinking, the fact that he said to some senators reportedly he'll stop drinking if he gets this job, does that worry you?
No, I think that everybody has something that they can stop. Some people can stop eating. I'm lucky I'm not a drinker, but I could stop eating. And we all want to stop doing something. And if you said that, I mean, it's a nice thing to say. That's a good thing to say. But he's very respected. I can tell you, I know a lot of the people at Fox, they think he's fantastic. And the people that work with him, really, they love him. So I think you're going to have somebody that's really terrific. And again, all he talked about with me, I said, you know, you're not really a television guy, even though he did very well, as you know. You're really a military guy.
Where the f is JD Vance? The literal only thing that I've seen of JD Vance in the past, like, month was that earlier today, I think, he said he was going to invite Daniel Penny over to a military show that he was attending.
He said, I'm all about the military. And I told him, so he's making a lot of money at Fox. They're doing very well. And I said, you know, if for some reason you don't get this thing, you're not going to be able to go back. And all that money you're making, you can kiss it goodbye. He said, this is all about America. You know, he didn't say, well, let me think about it. Let me discuss it. That's a very big, risky thing he's doing. When he goes and he says, I'm going to give up, you know, millions of dollars in order to possibly become the Secretary of Defense. A lot of people would say it's a great position. It's probably almost no greater position, but a lot of people would say, I have to think about it. He said, I don't have to think about it.
All right, we're going to delve into your cabinet picks a little bit later, but I want to delve into one of your signature promises on the campaign trail, which was to end inflation, to lower prices. You are now proposing tariffs against the United States' three biggest trading partners. Economists of all stripes say that ultimately consumers pay the price of tariffs.
I don't believe
Can you guarantee American families won't pay more?
I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee tomorrow. But I can say that if you look at just pre-COVID, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. And I had a lot of tariffs on a lot of different...
I still don't know if they're going to go through with the tariffs. I feel like this might end up being ruinous to a point that even the powers that be put their hands in. But I don't know. I don't know, man. I need get your foreign imports now, you know, get your Funko Pops while you can.
Countries, but in particular China, we took in hundreds of billions of dollars, and we had no inflation. In fact, when I handed it over, they didn't have inflation for a year and a half. They went almost 2 years, just based on what I had created. And then they created inflation with energy and with spending too much. So I think we will. I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich. We're subsidizing Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. We're subsidizing Mexico for almost $300 billion. We shouldn't be subsidizing. Why are we subsidizing these countries if we're going to...
When he says subsidizing, by the way, what he means is that there is a export-import imbalance, which is not subsidizing. Basically, we get more imports from them cost-wise than we export to them, which makes sense if you think about it, because America isn't a manufacturing giant. What could we be exporting to send to Mexico that would be more valuable than the insane amount of like stuff produced by their agricultural industry and cheap labor brought over to us. Like, it's not a bad thing. You importing more from another nation than you export to them isn't a bad thing. That's not a bad thing, even remotely.
Subsidize them, let them become a state. We're subsidizing Mexico, and we're subsidizing Canada, and we're subsidizing many countries all over the world. And all I want to do is I want to have
it's a good thing, if anything, because it indicates that your nation is wealthy enough that you can, like, think of it this way, okay? England, 1782. Do you think that England imported or exported more from, let's say, India? Do you think which do you think received more in that dynamic? Imported, obviously. Which of the two was the wealthier country? Which was doing better in that dynamic? Who was winning in that exchange? Between, like, I don't know, the British Raj and England. Does stealing count as import? Yes. Unironically, yes. If you set up the East India Trading Company and they start siphoning wealth out of the you know, the rest of the world, and they bring it back into England, yes, that all of that does count. That is an import. Like, you are bringing those in. Donald Trump is like, man, no, that would mean actually that England is being impoverished. That's you subsidizing the British Raj. That's a subsidy. Insane.
Level, fast, but fair playing field. Sir, your previous tariffs during your first administration cost Americans some $80 billion. And now you have major companies from Walmart, Black & Decker, AutoZone saying that any tariffs are going to force them to drive up prices for their consumers. How do you make sure that these CEOs, that these companies don't, in fact, pass on the cost of tariffs to their consumers? They cost Americans nothing. They made a great economy for us. They also solve another problem. If we were going to have problems having to do with wars and having to do with other things, tariffs, I have stopped wars with tariffs by saying, you guys want to fight, it's great, but both of you are going to pay tariffs to the United States at 100%. And they have many purposes, tariffs, if properly used. I don't say you use them like a madman. I say properly used. But it didn't cost this country anything. It made this country money, and we never really got the chance to go all out.
You're laughing, but people take this seriously and believe him. I still blame the Democrats, man. At least he talks about any of this. Democrats don't talk about the economy at all because all they have to say about it is everything will be fine, everything already is fine, but it's still going to be fine, nothing's going to fundamentally change, and we're going to give you like some microscopic, you know, like subsidy or grant or tax break or whatever if you meet these preconditions, you know? It's like Donald Trump gives people the feeling that they're in control of their own future. Because we had to fight COVID in the last part, and we did it very successfully. And when I handed it over to Biden, the stock market was higher than what it was just previous to COVID coming in. It was actually higher. Tariffs are properly used, are a very powerful tool, not only economically, but also for getting other things outside of economics. Well, again, prices did go up on some goods in your first administration, washing machines, tires. Will you punish CEOs? Let me just explain to you. No. You mentioned washing machines. So you look at Whirlpool in Ohio. I got a call from Jim Jordan, one of the greats, congressman from Ohio. And he said, they're going out of business because South Korea and China... Just enough the country's stupid enough to believe him. To be fair, you don't have to be stupid to not know how tariffs work. You're basically not taught that in school. Even if you are, schooling sucks anyway, so you don't retain much of it. And the media doesn't really talk about it. Like, maybe you would get this if you read, like, the New Yorker or some shit. Like, if you're one of those eggheads who actually keeps abreast of, like, you know, media. The most engagement that people get with politics is through politicians, obviously, right? Like, most Republicans get their engagement through Trump. Most Democrats have gotten their engagement through, you know, Obama, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, whatever. Like, that's like the front man for the party. And the problem is that Donald Trump uses that platform, that power, very, very aggressively, and the Democrats don't. The Democrats talk about, like, the meaning of the hope of the change of the future, of the dream of the American founders of the such and such. They don't talk about anything that makes people feel like they're involved, that makes people feel like they have any, like, input, that anything can change. Just a permanent institution, like an infinite, you know, ever expanding institution in which nothing can ever meaningfully change. That's what Democrats offer, you know?